Hello everyone. In this video we will see what variables are and how we define it in Python. So starting with the very basic question, what is a variable? When we talk about a variable, we usually mean something that is not consistent or something that can always change. Mathematically, what we understand from the term variable is that variable is nothing but a placeholder which can actually hold certain values, and we can use the same variable to store multiple different values depending on the need. Okay, so in Python, variables are actually a bit easier to define compared to every other language. For example, if we take C programming, then when we want to define a certain variable, let's say I want to define a variable called a, and I want to define an integer. So when it comes to C programming, I have to write something like def a as int. That is, I'm telling C program that I have a variable called a and want that variable to be an integer. So you don't need such things in Python. The dynamic nature of the variables in Python allows you to actually define the variable directly. So how do we actually define this variable? Let's see this in action. So I'm jumping into my Jupyter notebook, and let's say I'm going to create a new notebook here. Alright, so here let's say I want to create a variable a and I want to give it a value of 10. So the way I'm going to tell this to Python is that I'll simply say a is equals 10. Okay, so the only thing I had to use is a equal sign. And now if I just check, so if I type in a and I run this cell, Python is telling me this variable a has a value of 10. That is, we have assigned this value of 10 to the variable a. This is how simply you can put any kind of value into a variable, or this is how you define a variable in Python. Now, when I say the dynamic nature, what it actually means is that now if it actually see the type of this variable, okay, so if I simply say type of a and if I run this, now it's telling me that a is an integer. Python allows me to change the variable without defining it, like without changing or giving any extra instructions. So let's say if I want to define a as a string. So let's say if I have a string called abc, and now I want the value of this variable a to store the value of the string abc instead of this number 10 that we have initially given. So here I can simply run this value. This cell has run, and now if we check, a is having the value of abc. Okay, so this is what it means when we say it's dynamic in nature. So you didn't have to do anything extra while telling Python to change the value of a different data type. So just to cross check as to what type of this thing is, if I say type of A, it is going to give me string or str in short. Okay, so this kind of things is not uh, there in other programming languages like C and C++. There are both advantages and disadvantages of having dynamic typing in this particular format. So what would be the advantage? Like we saw, if I wanted this variable a to be an integer, I had to simply type in a is equal to 10, and now a is storing the value of 10. And now if I wanted the variable a to have a string abc, all I had to do is again I had to reassign a equals abc as string, and now a is having the value of abc. I didn't have to do anything extra. Okay, but this is giving me the flexibility that I can immediately code. So my coding will be much more faster and we'll be able to achieve things faster. So if I have a huge code wherein let's say there's a program I'm writing and we have to type in 1,000 lines of codes. So by having this dynamic nature, we don't have to type in extra lines. Okay, but what happens if I do a small error? So let's say if I wanted the variable a to be an integer, but by mistakenly I have typed it like this. So I wanted the value of a as 1, but I've written it as like this. So when I'm actually running this, I get a string of 1 and not the number 1. So if we cross check, if you simply type of a, it is going to give me a string and not an integer. So this kind of errors should creep in into your program when this dynamic nature is available to you. So this is a two-way, like you could say it's an advantage and a disadvantage at the same time. So you have to be careful as to how you use it. Okay. Now the next thing is we have to look at there are certain rules that are present in Python. So you cannot type in the variables just like that. There are certain rules for defining a variable. Now, so what are these rules? The first rule is that all the variables should be of lowercase. You cannot use an uppercase for defining a variable. It's not that you can't, but it's by practice that you should always use lowercase letters for defining a particular variable. The second and the most important rule is that you have to avoid using the special keywords. By special keywords, I mean, so let's say, let's go back to our notebook. Now you can see type of A is str. Okay, this when I type in str, you can see Python has highlighted this entire thing in green, telling us that it's a special keyword. Okay, so I cannot say str is equal to and I type in some number. We cannot do this. Okay, so you cannot use special keywords for defining your particular variables. The second thing that you have to always remember is that you cannot have spaces in a particular variables. So I cannot say a space b space c is equal to 1. This is not permitted. So if we want some kind of spacing, okay, so let's say I want a variable saying I want to call this variable as, let's say, my variable. So I want something like my variable. I want to assign it a value of, let's say, 15. If I want to do something like this. So by the rules, you cannot use this as a variable name. But what I can actually do is, after my, I can actually use a underscore. So I can say my underscore variable is equal to 15. And I can run this. Python will accept it. Okay, now if I say my underscore and I hit tab, then I'll get the value of 15. So now this variable, my variable, has a value of 15 that is assigned. So this is how you can actually create variables wherever you need space. Instead of keeping space, you can always use this underscore variable. Okay. The next rule is that you cannot use special characters while creating your variable names. Okay, that is special characters like at the rate, hash, dollar sign, percentage sign. You cannot use such special characters for creating your variables. And the next thing, up till now you have seen the variables that we have created, right? A, my var. Okay, so you can see that none of these variables have a number in the beginning. So that is the next rule. So you cannot start your variable name with a number. So I cannot have this, like let's say 1 abc is equal to, I cannot have this as my variable name. So you cannot start your variable name with a number. But I can actually say ABC1 and this is accepted. Okay, so this is an acceptable variable name. So this is the next thing that you have to remember in the rules. All right. Now, there will be one another question that mostly students keep asking is that what if I want to declare more than one variable at the same time? So let's say I have four variables with me that I have in my mind that I want to declare. So do I keep on repeatedly declaring it separately, or can I actually declare all these four variables at the same time? Okay, so in Python, you can always declare multiple variables at the same time. So let's see how we can do this. So let's say I want these four variables to be named as D, E, F, and G. Okay, so these are the four variables that I have that I want to declare. Now what I can simply do is I can write equal sign and I can write the respective numbers. So let's say I want these variables to have the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. That is, D should have the value of 1, E should have the value of 2, F 3, and G 4. So I can actually write this entire thing in one line and I can run this, and still Python will understand how to allot these numbers into these respective variables. Now just to cross check, let's print out the value of F. So if everything has gone correctly, the value of F should be 3. So if you print F, we're getting the value of 3. Okay. Now, so this is how you can give multiple values and declare multiple variables. The next question would be, what if I want multiple variables to have the same value? So let's say now take the same variables D, E, F, and G. But now instead of giving the values 1, 2, 3, 4, I want all these four variables to have the same value of, let's say, 2. So that can be possible when if the only thing I have to do here is, instead of writing commas, all we have to do is assign equal sign. Okay. And we said we wanted to give the value of 2. So we give the value of 2 and we run this. And now you will see that all these variables would have the same value. So E, F, G. So you can see all these variables have the same value of 2. All we had to do was use the equals operator in our statement. Okay, so this is how you can assign multiple variables, or put it in other words, this is how you can declare multiple variables at the same time. Okay, so this is what I had for you in this video. Thank you very much.